A delivery girl, a ruthless billionaire CEO. When their worlds collide, she uncovers a dark secret that could destroy everything he's built. But what happens next will shock you, because the truth isn't what you think. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more powerful tales like this one. Your support keeps the stories coming. Lena's shift had just ended, and she was heading home, exhausted and longing for a quiet night. Her phone buzzed with a new delivery order. She glanced at it lazily, ready to ignore it, but then saw the address Rain Enterprises, a name that sent a shiver down her spine. She knew of Gordon Stark, the notoriously cold CEO of the company. He was wealthy, powerful, and not the kind of person she'd ever imagined meeting, let alone delivering to. But the app showed a high payout. She hesitated, then thought of the bills piling up, and decided to take the job. The delivery was marked as urgent. The night air was chilly as she drove to the towering glass skyscraper, her mind racing. She was used to working late, but the thought of encountering someone like Stark made her uneasy. Still, she had no choice. As she parked in front of the building, her hands trembled slightly, but she pushed the fear aside. She was just a delivery girl, nothing to be afraid of, right? But as she approached the entrance, a sense of dread crept over her. Gordon Stark was a name that everyone feared, and now she was about to face him. Lena stepped into the pristine lobby of Rain Enterprises. The cold marble floors glistened under the fluorescent lights, and the building smelled of expensive perfume and freshly polished wood. She glanced around, the emptiness of the space sending a strange chill down her spine. No one else seemed to be around. The elevator door opened with a soft chime, and Lena stepped in. As the elevator climbed higher, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She checked her phone again. Gordon Stark, top floor. No one else in the company had the same access level as him, and she was about to deliver directly to him. The tension in the air seemed to thicken the higher she went. When the elevator doors opened, she was met with an immaculate hallway. The doors were grand and imposing, leading into what she knew was Stark's private office. She wasn't sure what to expect, but this felt like a moment she wouldn't forget. She knocked on the door, her knuckles brushing against the smooth wood, and waited. The door swung open, and there he stood, Gordon Stark, tall, impeccably dressed in a sharp black suit, his piercing blue eyes studying her intently. His presence was commanding, but there was something unsettling in the way he looked at her. Delivery. His voice was smooth, almost too calm. Lena swallowed, trying to push back the nervous flutter in her stomach. "Yes, sir, I have a delivery for you," she said, handing him the 2 packages she had brought. He glanced down at the boxes but didn't immediately take them, instead letting his gaze linger on her for a beat too long. "You're a long way from home," he said, his tone casual, but there was an edge to it. "I just followed the orders," Lena replied, trying to remain composed. He chuckled softly. "I bet you do," he said, taking the packages from her hand. But instead of simply receiving them and dismissing her, Stark stepped closer, his face now inches from hers. "You're not like the usual delivery people," he said with a sly smile. Lena's heart raced. She could feel the tension in the air thickening. There was something about the way he looked at her, something predatory. She stepped back, trying to maintain her professionalism. I need to go," she said, her voice slightly shaky. But Stark wasn't done. Stark's eyes darkened as he stepped even closer, blocking her exit. "You're in a hurry to leave?" he asked, his voice low, smooth, and commanding. Lena felt her pulse quicken, but she couldn't afford to show fear. "This was just a job, right? I have other deliveries to make," she managed to say. He smirked, a small, almost imperceptible shift in his expression. "I bet you do. But how many of them are as important as this one?" Lena shifted uncomfortably, not understanding his sudden interest. "This is just a regular delivery, sir." He raised an eyebrow, clearly not believing her. "I don't think so. I've seen people like you before, people who think they're invisible, just blending into the background." He stepped back slightly, but his eyes never left her. "You'll be back. I can see it in you." Lena's chest tightened, and she swallowed hard. There was a strange unease in the air now. She wanted to leave, but found herself frozen. Stark's smirk widened, and he finally stepped aside, allowing her to leave, but not without a parting shot. "I'll be seeing you again, Lena." His words sent a shiver down her spine, and as she hurried out of the building, she couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was just the beginning of something far more dangerous. 2 days later, Lena's phone buzzed again, another delivery request from Rain Enterprises. The familiar address flashed on the screen. Her stomach sank. After her last encounter with Gordon Stark, she had hoped she wouldn't have to go back. But the order was too lucrative to ignore, and she needed the money. She hesitated only for a moment before accepting the job. Personal delivery again, to Gordon Stark's office. The thought of facing him made her uneasy, but she couldn't afford to refuse. As she pulled up to the building, the same sense of dread from before crept over her. The night was quiet, and the lights of the tower seemed even colder, more imposing. This time, she parked in the same spot and walked toward the entrance. This time, no one greeted her. The lobby was deserted. The silence felt suffocating. Lena stepped into the elevator, the hum of its ascent making the atmosphere even more oppressive. The higher it went, the tighter her chest felt. When the doors opened to the executive floor, it was eerily empty, but she wasn't surprised. This was Gordon Stark's world, a world that seemed to stretch on endlessly, disconnected from everything else. Lena felt out of place, a pawn in a game she didn't understand. She knocked on Stark's office door, trying to steady her breath. The door opened almost immediately, and there he was, Gordon Stark. He looked different this time. His shirt sleeves were rolled up, and his tie hung loosely around his neck. He had clearly been working late, but there was something about his demeanor that made Lena uneasy. He wasn't wearing his usual confident, smug smile. Instead, his expression was serious, as though something had shifted in him since their last meeting. "You're back," he said, his voice deeper, with an edge of something she couldn't place. Lena felt a knot form in her stomach. "Yes, sir, I have. The delivery for you." Stark stepped aside, allowing her to enter, but this time there was no casualness in his manner. He closed the door behind her, not waiting for her to say anything. The room felt smaller, darker this time. Lena couldn't shake the feeling that she had walked into something she wasn't supposed to see. Stark motioned to the desk. "Put it down," he said, his tone sharp. As she set the package on the table, she noticed how his eyes lingered on her. He wasn't just looking at the package anymore, his gaze was fixed on her. The tension in the room thickened. Stark took a slow step toward her, his eyes never leaving hers. "You know, Lena," he began, his voice softer now, almost like a whisper, "I've been thinking about you." Lena's stomach flipped. "Thinking about me," she repeated, her voice betraying a touch of disbelief. He nodded, his gaze intense. "You seem out of place here. A girl like you, in a building like this. Don't you ever wonder why people like me exist? People who control everything, who have all the power." She shifted uncomfortably, unsure of where this conversation was going. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, trying to sound firm. Stark smiled, but it wasn't a reassuring smile. It was a twisted, knowing grin that made her skin crawl. "You're lying," he said softly. "You know exactly what I'm talking about." Lena took a step back, trying to distance herself. "I'm just here to deliver," she said, her voice growing more tense. Stark didn't move, his eyes still locked on her. "Of course you are," he said. "But you'll come back, won't you? You'll always come back." His words hung in the air, and Lena's heart began to pound. He wasn't just talking about deliveries anymore. She could feel it in the pit of her stomach. Something dangerous was about to unfold. Lena made a quick decision and took a step toward the door. "I should go," she said, her voice shaking despite her best efforts. Stark moved quickly, stepping in front of her and blocking her way. His face, once calm, now wore a dark expression. "I don't think you understand the situation, Lena," he said, his voice cold. "You think you can just walk in and out of my life whenever you please. But I have the power to make things difficult for people like you." Lena's pulse raced as she met his gaze, trying to steady herself. "What are you talking about?" He stepped even closer, towering over her. "You're a small part of my world, Lena, but don't mistake that for safety. I can crush you if I wanted to. Don't forget that." Lena's throat tightened as fear surged through her. She wasn't sure if he was just toying with her, but something in his eyes told her he wasn't. She had to get out of here. "I don't want any trouble," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Stark didn't respond immediately. Instead, he leaned in, his breath warm against her ear. "Then don't come back here again. But we both know you will." With that, he stepped aside, his demeanor suddenly cold again. Lena didn't wait another second. She rushed to the door and practically ran out of the office, her mind racing. She had no idea what kind of game Stark was playing, but she had a feeling it was one she wasn't prepared for. Lena's hands trembled as she locked her car door, glancing back at the towering skyscraper that was now fading in her rearview mirror. She had barely made it out of Rain Enterprises without completely falling apart. The weight of Stark's words lingered in her mind, growing heavier with each passing minute. She tried to shake it off, but her thoughts were interrupted when her phone buzzed an unfamiliar number. She hesitated but answered, her voice tight. "Hello." A familiar voice cut through the line. "Lena, I hope I didn't catch you at a bad time." It was Stark. Her stomach dropped. "What do you want?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. He chuckled, his tone smooth but colder than before. "I just wanted to see if you made it home safely. I wouldn't want anything bad to happen to you or your family." Her blood ran cold. "What are you talking about?" Stark's voice dropped lower, and a dark edge crept into his words. "You're not the only one who has secrets, Lena. I can make sure yours stay hidden, or I can make them public. You get to choose." She felt her heart pounding in her chest. "You're threatening me." "It's not a threat, it's a guarantee. You'll be back, won't you?" he said with a smirk that she could almost hear through the phone. Before she could respond, the line went dead. Lena stood frozen, her phone slipping from her grip, fear coiling tightly in her gut. Lena didn't sleep that night. Stark's words echoed in her mind, replaying over and over, as though they were inscribed in her brain. The whole situation was spiraling out of control, but she didn't know how to stop it. She had to find out more about him, about what he wanted, about the kind of man Gordon Stark really was. If he had the power to expose her secrets, what else could he do? The next morning, Lena sat at her kitchen table, scrolling through the internet. She needed to dig deeper. What she found left her cold. Stark's company, Rain Enterprises, was a powerful conglomerate with ties to everything: media, politics, law enforcement. It seemed like the deeper she went, the more tangled the web became. She stumbled upon articles about shady business dealings, rumors of underhanded tactics to get ahead, and whispers about Stark's personal life. Nothing concrete, just shadows and half-truths. But one thing stood out. Stark's family had a dark history. His father, a notorious businessman, was rumored to have been involved in illegal activities before his sudden, unexplained death. Was Gordon following in his footsteps? Lena's head swam with the possibilities, but one thing was clear. Stark had something on her, and he wasn't afraid to use it. The next day, Lena received another call. This time, it wasn't Stark. It was from a blocked number. She reluctantly answered, hoping for anything other than more threats. "You're being watched," the voice on the other end said, a raspy whisper. "Gordon Stark isn't what he seems." Lena's heart skipped a beat. "Who is this?" The voice didn't respond directly. Instead, it continued. "He's dangerous, and not just because of his power. There's more. He'll make you think you're in control, but he's always 10 steps ahead." The call clicked off suddenly, leaving Lena holding her breath. Who had just spoken to her? And why did it feel like someone else was now pulling the strings in this twisted game? She sat there for a while, stunned. Something told her that this warning was not just a random call. It felt like someone who knew exactly what was happening, someone who had seen this pattern before. Was there a way out? Or was she already too deep into Stark's trap to escape? Lena didn't know what to believe anymore. She had just spent the last few hours researching everything she could find about Stark, and the more she uncovered, the more confusing things became. Her phone rang again, and she jumped. It was Stark. "Don't ignore me, Lena," he said, his voice smooth, as if nothing had happened. "I told you you'd come back. What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice raw from lack of sleep. He laughed softly, a cold, empty sound. "What do I want? Nothing. I already have what I need." Lena's head spun. "What are you talking about? You really don't understand, do you?" Stark continued, his voice gaining a dark intensity. "I know who you are, Lena. I know everything about you, where you live, your family, your friends. I can destroy everything you've worked for with one phone call." Lena felt a chill run down her spine. "You won't get away with this." Stark's laugh was darker this time. "You think you have power, but you don't. I'm the one who controls this game." Suddenly, it hit her. This wasn't just about money or power. Stark had been playing a much deeper, more dangerous game, and she was right in the middle of it. "I'll be seeing you soon," he said, hanging up before Lena could respond. The call ended with a soft click. leaving her in the deafening silence of her apartment. What had she gotten herself into, and was there any way to get out? Lena's world had shifted in a matter of days. What had once been a simple delivery job now felt like a nightmare she couldn't escape. Her mind raced as she tried to make sense of everything Stark had said, his threats, his cryptic messages. She hadn't heard from him in a few days, but the unease never left her. The more she thought about it, the clearer it became. Stark was controlling everything. It wasn't just his wealth or his power, it was his knowledge. He knew things about her that no one should. Lena felt trapped, cornered in a life she didn't want. The only way out was to confront him, to find out what he wanted and why he was doing this. But that meant going back to Rain Enterprises. The thought made her stomach turn, but she had no choice. She couldn't live in constant fear, wondering if today was the day Stark would make good on his threats. She grabbed her coat and left the apartment, her heart pounding with every step. As she approached the building, the eerie feeling from her last visit crept up again. Everything about Rain Enterprises felt wrong, cold, soulless. Stark was a man who lived in the shadows, and she had become his pawn. But today, she was going to take control. She couldn't let him win. Lena entered the lobby with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt before. The doorman barely glanced up as she walked past, and she made her way to the elevator without hesitation. The ride up was agonizingly slow, the silence amplifying her anxiety. As the doors opened on the top floor, she was immediately greeted by the cold, sterile environment of Stark's empire. But this time, it felt different. There was no lingering dread in the air, just a sharp, burning resolve. She walked straight to Stark's office, her breath steadying as she approached the door. This was it, the moment of truth. The door opened at her knock, and there he was, sitting behind his polished desk, the same unreadable expression on his face. "Lena," he said, as if he had been expecting her. "I wondered when you'd show up." She stepped inside, locking eyes with him. "I'm not afraid of you anymore, Stark." His lips curled into a faint smile. "You should be." Lena refused to back down, though her heart pounded in her chest. "I want answers, and I want them now." Stark leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms, the coldness in his eyes never leaving her. "You think you're ready to hear the truth?" Her mind raced, but she didn't let the fear show. "I'm not leaving until you tell me what you want." Stark's eyes narrowed as he studied Lena, his expression unreadable. The silence stretched on, thick with tension, before he spoke again, his voice calm, but with an undertone of danger. "You want to know what I want?" he repeated. "It's simple. You think you're just a delivery girl, but I see something more in you, Lena. You have potential. I need someone like you in my life." Lena was taken aback. "What do you mean?" He smiled, leaning forward slightly. "You see, Lena, I've been watching you for a long time. I know about your past, your family, your struggles, everything about you, and I've decided it's time for you to take your place in my world." Her stomach churned. "I don't want anything to do with your world." Stark's smile faded, replaced by something more dangerous. "You don't have a choice." He stood up, walking toward her. "You're already part of it, whether you realize it or not." Lena felt trapped, the walls of the room closing in on her. "I don't need you to control me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Stark's expression softened, but there was no warmth in it. "That's the thing, Lena. You do need me. You just haven't figured it out yet." The fear that had been building inside her for days now felt like a cold, suffocating weight. He wasn't just playing games, this was a dangerous, high-stakes game she had no way of winning. For a moment, there was silence between them, thick and suffocating. Stark didn't speak, and neither did Lena. Her mind raced as she tried to process what had just happened. Stark wasn't just a powerful CEO, he was something darker, pulling strings behind the scenes, controlling everything in his path. He moved closer, his presence overwhelming. "You don't understand, do you? This isn't a game. This is real power, the kind that people like you can only dream of." Lena's pulse raced. "What are you asking me to do?" Stark's lips parted in a cold smile. "I'm offering you a position by my side, Lena. You'll have everything you've ever wanted: money, power, influence, all of it. You'll no longer be a delivery girl. You'll be my partner." Lena recoiled, disgust flooding her system. "No, I won't be a part of your empire of lies and manipulation." Stark's eyes darkened, and for the first time, she saw true anger in them. "I thought you might say that," he said, "but you will come back to me. Everyone does, eventually." Lena's breath hitched as she realized the full extent of his reach. Stark wasn't someone you could just walk away from. He owned everything, controlled everything. And in that moment, Lena knew there was no escaping him. But she wouldn't give up without a fight. She couldn't. Lena couldn't shake the feeling that she was suffocating. Gordon Stark's world was too powerful, too ruthless, and every step she took seemed to pull her deeper into his orbit. She left his office that day with a decision burning in her mind. She needed to get out, to break free from the tangled web he had woven around her. But how her thoughts raced as she sat in her apartment later that night, staring at the walls as though they were closing in on her. She couldn't leave the city, not yet. She needed more time and more information. Stark had threatened her family, her friends. He had known everything about her, from her personal life to her financial struggles. That wasn't just power, it was something far darker. And the more she thought about it, the clearer it became. Stark had to be stopped. She didn't know how, but she couldn't just sit idly by. The game had changed. It was no longer about survival. It was about finding the truth. The phone call she'd received earlier that week echoed in her mind. "You'll always come back, won't you?" But this time, Lena wasn't just going to play by his rules. It was time to fight back. Lena's desperation drove her to the brink of exhaustion as she dug deeper, searching for any clue that could lead to the truth behind Stark's empire. She finally stumbled upon something, a hidden file, buried deep within the dark corners of the internet. It contained records from Rain Enterprises, specifically about a covert operation her family had been unknowingly connected 2 years ago. It all pointed to Stark's father, who had been involved in illegal activities ranging from blackmail to corporate espionage, manipulating rivals and using his wealth and connections to control everything. Lena's father had worked for Stark's father as a trusted lawyer, but he had died under mysterious circumstances, just like Gordon Stark's father. The file revealed a chilling truth. Stark hadn't inherited his father's empire. He had taken it by force, silencing anyone who got in his way, including her own father. Lena's blood ran cold as she pieced the puzzle together. Stark had been orchestrating everything for years, and now he was trying to control her too. But the most chilling revelation came next. Her father's death wasn't an accident. Stark had played a role in it. That was why he was so determined to keep her under his thumb. He wanted to silence her, just like he had silenced so many others. Armed with the truth, Lena knew she couldn't waste another second. She had to confront Stark once and for all. She made her way to Rain Enterprises, the weight of the knowledge heavy on her shoulders. She wasn't just a delivery girl anymore. She was someone who had uncovered the darkest secrets of a man who thought he could control her. As she stood in front of the towering building, she felt a rush of determination. The fear she once had was gone. There was nothing left to lose. When she entered Stark's office, he was waiting for her, as if he had known she would come. His eyes narrowed when he saw the folder in her hand. "What is this?" Lena threw the file on his desk. "This is the truth about your father and about you. You think you can manipulate everyone around you, but you've made one mistake. You underestimated me." Stark's expression didn't change. He remained calm, as though he had expected this. "You're playing a dangerous game, Lena." "I'm not playing," she said, her voice steely. "I know what you did, and I'm going to make sure the world knows too." For the first time, Stark looked unsettled. "You can't win," he said, his voice low. "I'll destroy you." Lena stepped forward, her confidence unwavering. "You've already tried, but now, it's over." She turned, walking out of the office with the weight of the truth on her side. The news broke days later, and the fallout was immediate. The secrets of Rain Enterprises were exposed, illegal dealings, the manipulation of rivals, and Stark's role in his father's criminal empire. It wasn't just a scandal. It was the unraveling of a corporation built on lies. As Lena watched from the sidelines, the weight of everything that had happened finally sank in. She had won, but the victory came at a cost. Her life would never be the same. She wasn't the same. Gordon Stark was arrested, his empire crumbling beneath the weight of his own greed and lies. But as Lena sat alone in her apartment, staring out the window, a sense of peace settled over her. She had taken control of her own destiny, and for the first time in years, she felt free. But deep down, she knew this wasn't just the end of her story, it was the beginning of something bigger. And though Stark had been defeated, the scars of the battle would stay with her forever.